Hi guys, and welcome back to RedStone Productions. We are in the control room of our own studio in Amsterdam, and today we have a very special guest. We have Joshua van der Stam, the actual founder of Stam Audio. I know everybody out there is willing to ask so many questions. I'm really interested to know, first of all, what's the history of Stam Audio? How it all started, Joshua?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with your crew and back in Holland. I started the company in 2014. Before that, I was making stuff, but we used to be called Clone Audio. Not a very good name for a brand. So I started selling to local studios in Argentina and Chile, making custom work. And that's how we started, making them by hand, one by one. And the first product was a LA2B, which is an LA2A we made without the T4B. It was a bit modified. That's how we started,
Okay, so 2014 in Chile.
No, we started first in Argentina.
Right.
Then we couldn't import the products we needed to make quality gear. Due to the political system in Argentina, you couldn't get a hold of Crown Hill transformers or stuff.
Right, makes sense.
Yeah, so we moved to Chile, and in Chile you have a free trade agreement with most part of the world, and you could buy anything you wanted, and low tax on it. So it worked for us to try to get the products out to the world. It was much easier for us. So that was the reason we started then in Chile under Stam Audio in 2014.
Okay, so now something that people might really, be interested in. So how did it all snowball into you guys producing hundreds of units? I mean, you were saying basically you're doing units custom made for specific clients, and now you are basically facing hundreds of orders pretty much every other day. So how did it all snowball into that?
I'm not sure. That's a good question. I think mouth to mouth.
Right.
What happened was I took the challenge very early on to say, okay, I can clone this and I can make it sound like the original 100%. And a lot of people were skeptical. They said, like, why is it not other brands doing it if it's doable? So I started doing a lot of research, maybe spent 20 hours a day doing research, slept very little, and just got really obsessed with the fact that I could make something sound like it sounded 30 years ago with components made today. So that was a challenge, and then when I realized that we could do it, because we went to studios that had the original Neumanns and the original stuff, and people couldn't tell them apart, I was like, okay, we did something special here. So we started selling them to local studios, and then there's big guys, I was telling you about like Greg Wells, he posted a picture with it, and suddenly the entire audio world was interested in it.
I mean, the same kind of happened to me. I think couple of months prior to that picture being posted on social media from Greg Wells, I was just doing the usual research on forums, seeing what news were about new products being launched. And the Stam Audio was kind of, a big alarm. A big thing is like a lot of people are putting a lot of attention into these products, even though you guys back then probably only had the 4000 compressor.
Yeah, that was the second unit we did. Everything started with the LA2A.
Okay.
So I saw a gap in the market, and I thought, okay, nobody's doing this at a reasonable price.
Right.
Under $1,000. So
that's correct, because if for the guys out there, of course, we're talking about the old Teletronics LA2A.
Yeah, the old Teletronics LA2A. And we started without capital. So when I did the LA2A, we took pre-orders to reserve a spot and get a discount to get people to sort of fundraise it to make the product. And that's how we started. We didn't have any money. We just had the product that we know sounded great, and like 100 guys reserved, and then we got it made, and people loved it, and then we put the SA4000, and that blew out of proportion. We have sold thousands of those units.
Wow.
I think we got when we released it on the first day, we got 100 orders reserved.
I think that was
so
cool.
Overnight we was 3 of us in 2015, and it's 30 of us now 3-4 years later. So every month, pretty much, we hire a new guy and train them up. So it was suddenly, like you said, Everybody was interested to, okay, what's happening here? Known guys putting a good word of mouth for it, is vouching for it.
Correct.
And I didn't know who, part of my ignorance, but I didn't know who Greg Wells was. So when he bought, I just, charged him. And then I didn't know he was this big guy.
To me, it was like, Greg Wells definitely can afford one or two original Teletronics
Yes.
LA2A.
Yes.
So I'm like, why is this guy actually, staging himself with the Stam Audio LA2A style compressor?
Yeah.
And that's what kind of like, okay, there must be some really good stuff happening down there in Chile. And my first purchase from you guys was the SA4000. You said probably one of the most popular units that you guys manufactured.
Yes.
And that was followed by the SA76.
The A revision, yes.
Yeah, the A revision. That was another thing that was kind of very difficult to find. So nowadays, of course, Universal Audio still does the reissue, but that's of the revision D, the black face, so to speak.
Yes, they also made an anniversary edition, which has the blue stripe with the black face.
But that was very limited in counts. They didn't do so many of those. So to me, it was like, I want to get the extra grit of the, the old revision AB. You guys were pretty much the only guys that were able to reproduce those tonalities in one unit.
Yes, like I said, we became very obsessed with the fact of making them sound like the original.
Yeah.
So I sit there and I change one capacitor and I change one value and I listen again and and then try every transformer out there.
And that's the other thing I wanted to ask you. How do you manage to make sure that what you guys are actually cloning is sounding as close, if not 100% equal to the original? Do you guys do it by ears? Do you, of course, measure stuff?
Ears is the boss.
Yeah.
We, of course, put we sweep everything. We do frequency responses. We have to, because that's the engineering side. But everything is decided with our ears. So I listen to something. If I like it, it goes out to the public. If I think it does not sound the same, it doesn't. It's just that's the thing I'm committed to. And funny enough, we did it with laptop speakers.
Right.
So my engineers now say, like, why are you listening to this laptop speakers? And I tell you, because if I can hear a difference in a laptop speaker, it's probably different. So
it's funny you mentioning this. So in the last review we did, I think it was the second last one, we did the Pultec shootout. And there was one comment saying, hey man, I really appreciate your work. I don't have a lot of pro audio stuff, but I can definitely hear the difference of these 3 different clones on my laptop speaker. That's of course, at the end of, that's reality check.
Well, in all honesty, on microphones, you can definitely hear it. I can hear it. And you have to trust your ears. I learned very early on in Stam. We went to this producer who was a platinum mixer, allegedly the best ears we could find around.
Right.
And we brought the 87 clone, and he said, it's perfect, it's wonderful, I'll keep it. And I said, no, it's too dark. And he's like, no, it's great. And I said, no, it's too dark. So I left it, and then I went back home, and 2 weeks later I get an email from this man, and he says, your microphone is too dark.
All right.
And then I said, okay, you need to trust your ears. And from then onwards, I've trusted my ears, and every product we launch at Stam, we rent an original, or if we have it, and we just, listen. And I've tried maybe 20 different transformers on one unit, and it takes me a year sometimes for all the tests. But when I find the recipe, the right parts for everything, and I feel confident, okay, I cannot tell it apart, then we put it out there.
Something also very unique is that you started as a one-man business sort of thing. So you're doing the research and development, you're actually assembling the units, testing, swapping components, trying to make the best possible match for your actual replicas. And nowadays, you were saying it's snowballed into more than 20 persons?
It's more than 30, I think, now.
More than 30, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm sure
there's people I don't know.
There's people that's great.
I'm like, oh, he looks like a
So there's multiple heads working on research and development, on the customer service. How do you manage to maintain, these really beautiful units at such an affordable cost? So what's the secret ingredient there?
The secret ingredient is making them in large batches. So when people reserve our units, let's say 200, 300 people reserve, it allows us to buy 500 chassis, 500 transformers, and the prices go down by 50, 60%. So this is the only way to produce this quality at this price. If you ask me, Josh, to make me one of these, I would have to charge you $2,000, I don't know. And the other part, of course, is we used to bypass retailers. So when you sell to the direct consumer, they save 30%.
Right.
And it works for the US market because when we ship a unit to them, they don't pay any tax, they just get it at home.
So there's no duty, import taxes?
Duty free, they just get it at home. So it works great for them. But for Europe, it didn't work so good because there's the VAT, there is the shipping, there's customs dealings, and if something goes wrong with the unit, they don't feel confident enough. Where do I have to return it? So the market never exploded in the same way as we did with the US in Europe. Right. So then we decided, okay, let's try doing it with retailers, which we started about a year and a half ago with Mastering Mansion in Spain, right, and Gear for Music in the UK, and we're talking to several others as well. And it worked, as people are very happy to buy from them and know what the final price will be, and
I mean, that brings me to the next point that I'm sure all of the guys out there, I'm like, okay, when are you going to make that question? So people really love, and I'm one of those, they really love your work because of the quality that you actually can deliver. But one of the main flaws in your business, it's always been, I mean, it's pretty recent, but it's always been people complaining about delivery dates never really being what it's supposed to be. Yeah. Meaning, you also, guys, as you said, you do pre-order via your website, so people would actually be able to save some money if they order before you actually doing the batch. But that kind of led into even more confusion, where people said, well, I pre-ordered it and now it's kind of 12 months in and I don't even know if I'm ever going to receive that unit. So are you guys trying to tackle down that problem? What's the strategy? What are you guys going to do?
Probably everybody wonders what you just asked, and there's probably three things that was a challenge for us to be able to overcome these problems, and we're still working on it. Right. First was supply. So we had to find a way to be more realistic in terms of when we're going to get all the parts to make them. So I was very bad at organizing myself with delivery dates because, like I told you earlier, I would think, okay, I'm getting this stuff in May, I can do this, I can build them all, they're going out in May. And then with my engineers, we realized, okay, listen, yes, we can have everything in all the parts in stock, but it then takes another month or 2 months to, start getting them out at a good rhythm, because the first few you make, it's slow, then you gain some speed and
Correct.
What problem to look at when you have a bit of noise or this or that. So supply was one problem. That was the first problem. And what we did is we have stocked ourselves with parts now. So whenever we finish delivering the backlog, we have enough parts to make more.
Right.
So that gives us the freedom to control our times a little bit better. Then there was the second problem. It was giving realistic ship dates to clients. And this, of course, we had to work as a team, not only with what I said, suppliers, but also how long it's going to take us, what's the failure rate, how long does quality control take? Yeah. Because sometimes I say to a client, I have the unit ready, and then after 2 days, we let them burn normally. The 2 days, you get a problem. And then you have to build another one. And, so being more organized in terms of the engineering and the time it takes to build a unit was the second stage. Right. And now we have made a new website that will probably be live by the time, people see this interview, hopefully. And we have worked on a realistic delivery calendar that we can commit to. Right. So people know what to expect. And we have also created a newsletter and hired people for customer service, because I believe the problem is not so much waiting, because you are getting a discount for waiting and you can get a refund whenever you want. So
True.
It's not so much of, I think the problem is communication and being realistic in terms of when you're going to get it, because if I tell you, Pietro, I'm sending in December, you're not going to be mad in November because you haven't received it. No. But if I tell you September and then it's November, then you're going to be mad. So this is everything I had to learn along the way. Like I told you, we started with no capital, so this has always been our model. So we get a bunch of pre-orders, we grab the money, we buy the parts, and then we'll wait for them to arrive. Some parts get 2 months to get to Chile, or 3 months. Right. And then we build them and we put them out. We are, about to solve this problem, hopefully in the next few weeks, that at least people know when they're going to get it. I mean, and if they want to cancel and get a refund after they know it's going to be too long, then, fair enough. But
that's always been the case, and you've always been very upfront about it. And guys, if this is taking too long, we know that, we are way out of what we expected to be. But if you want the money back, there you go. The day after, you just get the bank transfer and everything all right.
We've never not refunded somebody. It's either you get the unit or a refund. And we also, if you go past PayPal has 180 days to get. we send back what we received. So
with no issues,
there is
no
no risk
fines.
with us, because if I wouldn't, it would be known very fast on forums.
Right.
Stam Out is not refunding people. I don't think anybody else would buy from me. So
I never heard such a thing, to be honest.
Sometimes there's some few comments, but I can assure you, that's not something that will ever happen with us. Also, we have offered a lot of compensations to clients. So we emailed a bunch of clients and said, listen, the next time you want to buy from me, it's going to be 50% off as a compensation for the wait you've been through and everything. Because I understand, me as a customer, I would probably be even more angry, more frustrated if I had to wait for something so long, especially these days when people are used to getting things the next day.
We were just discussing just a few minutes back with a nice coffee that the problem for studios and also home studio owners is that maybe they just managed to put that money aside for the session coming up, I don't know, 1 month from now, 2 months from now, and they really want to have that extra piece that you guys can deliver at a really affordable price. But on the other end, they are not really sure they should go for the purchase because they don't really know when the actual unit is going to show up at the door. And for this reason, I think a lot of, especially home studio owners went for some alternatives that, of course, are readily available in every single shop around the globe, kind of within the same price range. Kind of within the same quality, even though, as you see here, we have lots of different brands, lots of different replicas, and we really like to try all the different units. But all in all, you need to understand that people out there, of course, are kind of suffering this situation because they cannot really rely on your product showing up when it's session time.
Yes.
And that's the thing,
and I think it's going to be the case until we have stock on everything.
And that brings me to the next point, which a lot of people on forums, since we're talking about it, been complaining also about the fact you were launching new products before making sure that the clients already ordered previous products will get those at their doorsteps. So that was another thing that created even more confusion and more complaints. It was like, well, we ordered XY product, the SA76, 2 months ago, and we were ensured they would be at the house by now, but actually it's not in the house. I haven't heard anything from Joshua or the company, but I can see on social medias that they're actually launching a new product.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's the deal with it? Are they actually, taking my pre-stock advance money to buy parts for the new product? And they're kind of left in the dark. So that's, as you were saying, also another part of the thing. You need to maybe step up a little bit with communication, hopefully with the website being up there and setting up an email list, just to make sure that your clients know what's really going on.
Managing expectations is the key thing here. And as I was telling you before, I started calling a lot of clients. In fact, I've given my number to most of my clients, and this is something new for me because I have to spend many hours a day. But it has worked in the terms of that people feel more comfortable with me now, and we get to talk and explain everything, the process, and they don't feel that they're left in the dark with no communication. So, I've been phoning a lot of people, and some people have been phoning me. Like you said, communication, the newsletter, the new website, hire people for customer service, so that people, adjusting the expectations in terms of delivery dates. So all these things you have to do to first avoid frustration of not knowing what is happening with your order, which should have been probably dealt with much sooner and not this year, because this is something that has been going on for 2-3 years.
True.
And like I told you before, I was always focused on the engineering, and I thought this won't matter as long as it's the best sounding replica they can get, it'll be all forgotten. And then I learned along the way that people care a lot about customer service and talking and being communicated what's going on. So we're taking steps. And with regards to the point of they're launching new products before, it is not the case literally that way, because what we do is we announce that we will make another product down the line, but we're not working on that. So these are, as I told you before, designs that I have maybe 25 designs that are just sitting there. And then we have a slot. We say, okay, in 6 months, we're going to be done with everything. Should we, say we're going to make this? Okay, we do that. But our focus and our time and our efforts in engineering and production is dedicated to what was ordered first. So we're working on that. I think
it's really important for the people out there to really hear these words straight from you, coming from your mouth. Because, again, it's just a matter of confusion and people saying, well, I've been waiting for my LA2A from Stam so long, and now they're launching a beautiful Stam Child.
Yeah, no, but sometimes it's the case we're sitting there waiting for parts. It used to be, and we have not much to do.
Right.
Because we don't have the parts to store, so what should we do? And then in those free times, while I was waiting for parts, I used all the time to design a lot of stuff.
The research.
Unique products, clones, whatever. And the only thing I can say about that is that right now, all of us are working on the backlog orders. So we're working on what's been ordered, what's been paid.
Great.
And we follow the timeline of what we've been receiving and launching. So we're not going to work on something that we just announced and leave your product for later. That's not the case.
Thanks for clarifying that part. The other thing I also wanted to ask you, nowadays, I think more than compared to 2014 when you guys started, there's a lot of different brands of all sort of different sizes.
Yeah.
We're talking about corporations here. Eh? They have lots of people, doing marketing campaigns, aggressive marketing campaigns, and whatnot. There's a lot of availability for different kind of clones, pretty much for all sort of pockets. How are you actually managing to keep your position within the market, being aware there are big boys coming from across the ocean, building high amount of, we're talking about thousands of units being produced in batches and put on the market for extremely cheap. So how you guys are kind of managing to struggle with those, and how are you still going for quality products? Is that still what?
Yes, we actually raised the price on our stuff when we saw that lower price was coming in. Okay. We went the opposite direction.
Right.
It's sort of making a statement that we know our stuff is handmade, is more valuable, and in the firm belief that we use the best components that we can find. So we always try to focus on ourselves and know what the other guys are doing, but we have to obviously keep attention to see, okay, what is this company doing? And, so my mojo, is that a word, mojo?
Yeah, it is.
My theme was always, I saw this movie, American Gangster, and it was best product in the market, best price in the market. My thing was always, if I can make the best replica of this unit and at the best price, you pretty much, have won the race. And I've always believed, of course, you believe in what you do, that we, at least on the shootouts, we've had, maybe 25, 30 shootouts through these years. And I think people have always, almost always chosen us to be the most accurate replica, which was a huge honor when we started, because it confirmed that, all the passion and research and work we did, it was paying off. But we did take a measurement of the market and said, okay, what can we do to match these guys that are coming in with these aggressive prices? And I said, what if we do 376 in one? What if we do 3 Poltecs in one? So you're getting for the same price as before, 3 Poltecs. Doesn't make us competitive again. Did we actually raise the price, or did we decrease it for the customer? The 80G, the 76, we got 350 or 400 orders in the first week, and it confirmed that, okay, this is the good step to do, because you can choose a revision with your fingertips. Okay, you want aggressive A for drums or vocals, you want a clean G revision for bass or for what, and you just switch it with one tip, and it's the same price as the other one before.
I think that's what's really making the difference here. So you managed to kind of represent yourself and present kind of replicas with extra features.
So for me, it was important to conserve the original design in audio path. Right. So I didn't want to mix it up and come up with something new.
Kind of do a Frankenstein.
And even the faceplate I wanted to keep as the original, right? So in the right column, when you have the switches, we kept the same, but it only does gain reduction. You cannot monitor +4 and +10, which are quite redundant these days.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, we're going to do 3-in-1, 2-in-1, or now we have a 4-in-1 LA2A, but we have to keep the original looks.
Okay. So
because people care about that. They want it to look like the original. Even they know it's not, for them it's important. And we did this inside, we respect, so for example, our LA2A, which is called the 23A Plus, has got the 3 transformers of an LA3A, the 2 transformers from an LA2A, 2 different T4Bs. So if you take the lid off and you look inside, you'll see the LA3A circuit and the LA2A circuit, and then we have a switching system that just with relays you choose between one and another, which took us 2 years to master. It's a proprietary design, it's not been done before, so uncharted territory, very challenging for us. And everybody said it wouldn't work, you know, and I thought it could work. At one point, I said maybe it won't work. So we kept trying, and one day it worked, and the day it worked, it was like, we can actually choose an LA2A from the 70s or 80s on LA2A just doing this, and you have an original audio path.
Something that's really unique about about the way you guys do business is, you know, if for instance today I want to order a 1073 from you guys, I even have the option of requesting this or that transformer. So that's something that it's also setting you guys apart. As we know, especially when it comes down to vintage equipment, there's some sort of different flavors. I challenge anybody to find two U47 from the 60s to sound exactly the same. Because there's aging, there's different components, maybe somebody did some restoration. But what you guys are
even if they're not changed, they will.
It's just the aging. It's just.
And also the tolerances of the components
back
then
in the days
was 20-30%, you know.
So the kind of research and development you guys do is so that you kind of allow the customer to go and pick up, for instance, a specific transformer in or out when it comes down to the 1073. But how much energy and how much time you guys actually spend researching on where to source each different parts. Now you are all over the place. You guys do mic preamps, you do EQs, compressors, really good microphones.
Yeah, well, it's all audio related. So
it is all audio
when
related.
you know when you learn to make one of them, then the rest is pretty much all the same. You know, it's just.
But I'm sure you know there's people that spend their entire life just repairing and then come up with their own design of U47.
Yeah.
So they spend their entire life studying capsules and components just when it comes down to one single design, a U47 or 67, so to speak.
Well, like I said, I spent 20 hours probably a day for years.
Right.
Many years, from maybe 2010 until 2014.
And now you're at the point where they're the go-to part manufacturers.
When I started making, for example, the 1073,
right.
I saw the market and said, okay, all of these guys are making 1073 replicas, right?
Yeah.
Using these transformers and that. What can I do that makes it sound closer to an original? And why has it not been achieved yet? What can we do? So then I started changing part by part and studying the circuit, which is quite a simple circuit actually, but transformers in audio is 80% of the sound, right? So you have your preamps, your compressor, and 80% or 90% of the sound comes from the transformers. So we at the original transformers dissected, and we had guys in labs working at it and just measuring everything, the inductance, the windings, the material cores. We actually asked suppliers to use different quality materials for the iron, so it's more similar to what it was 30 years ago because it's better now. Yeah. And we don't want that. We want higher THD. So, you know, it's sort of, you go after what sounds actually worse in spec, but that's the way it sounded earlier. So it's putting a puzzle together, and yes, you spend years, but when you love it and it's your obsession and you love audio, as I know you do, it feels natural.
It's your second nature. Yeah.
Totally I would do it all over again, and you know, research is the most fun part when you're designing something. We just test and test until you get it, but you have to be quite obsessed and you have to be driven and have a passion for it.
Totally.
And I think that passion translates into Stam Audio products, because as much as we're late and you know, we've been not great at customer service in the past, and we're still trying to improve, we've always been known for that sound quality that sets us apart from other replicas, and that's something we're very proud of because we worked many years in researching all this stuff.
That's really cool. I mean, this is really like kind of, okay, these guys took their time. They didn't just go over the do-yourself forums and then purchase parts all over the place from OEM manufacturers and put it together and put their logos on. You guys actually took hours of your time every single day.
Yes, even the microphones that you mentioned, when you open up an old microphone, the schematic says, okay, this value should be this. You measure it, and that value is totally different. So if you make a microphone today with the same values that you see on the schematic, it will sound different, because the real microphone didn't have those values. It says it did, but the tolerances said something different.
Right.
So you have to play with that, and you have to listen and then change one part. Okay, it needs to be a bit more high end. Okay, it's lagging a bit low end. What can we change? What can we do? Try another capsule, try another transformer, try another tube. microphones are living things, you know. You put a different tube and it sounds completely different.
Yep.
And the interaction between the components.
Yeah,
so
key.
you cannot clone and make something sound the same if you use the same parts as it. You have to find out why you can't, and what can you do, and what's the real value in this component and that, and then you get to that point where it has to be.
Okay, that's really interesting. And again, if we think about these classic EQs like 1073s, 1081s, and if you think nowadays, I got my students saying, why do I only have 110 and I cannot go, I don't know, 125 on a 1073? Those were EQs that were kind of requested by the big studios, Abbey Road, you mentioned it, and they were actually requesting Rupert Neve or whoever was, you know,
custom stuff,
to actually say we need that EQ point in that spot, we need that frequency, because that's what we normally, you know, go and boost or cut. We know that we're gonna cut some, you know, 250, 450 for madness, and we need to have that frequency there because that's our go-to. So nowadays we are living in a world where everybody wants to have a clone and everybody's expecting to sound exactly the same, when in reality, back in the days, each one wanted to have his own little flavor, even when it came down to different frequency points. So to me, it's kind of, I don't know, chasing the tail of a snake. But at the end of the day, as we said at the very beginning, whatever sounds good, and you guys actually test your gear by ears as well, it's what makes a lot of sense. And sometimes you need to go for all components that in theory sound worse, if you think about THD, but then that's more kind of, it's more...
Well, we have a lot of products we never announced because I couldn't make them sound like the original. So they're just there. And they will never see the day of light until I find a provider that can make the difference.
So all of that work happens behind the scenes the whole time?
Anything that goes out of Stam, when it does get out, has been years of research, of testing, to get to that point. And if we fail, we don't produce it. And eventually you will get the part, you know, even if it'll be custom made, and then we'll put it out. But until then, we don't.
You don't even take the chance to put it out.
No, because our reputation, like I said to you before, we have two sort of reputations: the bad one with delays, and the good one with the difference we make in people that buy our units. They don't return it. We offer a 30-day money back guarantee, and I think we've shipped more than 6,000 units now, and we have maybe 3 returns in 4 or 5 years.
There we go. I mean, that says a lot. Says really a lot. And when it comes down, because people out there might be also concerned about this, you guys offer 1-year warranty on all of your products.
We have a 2-year warranty per product. It used to be 1 year, and we started doing 2 years on a few products, and now every product is going to be 2 years. That's
great. So that's also kind of fitting within the European, what we expect.
And we have engineers in Europe and Canada and the US, so if you have a problem with your unit, you ship it and we
That's it. So you actually do have engineers around the globe, around the clock, that, you know, every single customer can rely upon and say, hey, I don't know, whatever, my SA 4000, the left, it's a little bit higher than the right.
Yes, and also if you get a product from us and it arrives faulty, we paid for the shipping back and forwards to the place where you have to send it. So and the bill. So
it's completely hassle-free.
Cost-free for the client,
It doesn't need to go back to Chile.
No.
Just staying kind of within the region. That's really great. This brings me to the last, to the last piece you guys announced at the Summer NAMM show, I think, which is the Stam Child. What's the deal about the Stam Child? Besides the name, I mean.
Well, yeah, nice name, huh?
Nice name indeed.
So we are finally producing it, and the first 10 units go out this month, and we have 40 more coming out next month, or 50 of them. So what we did on the unit is preserve the audio path.
Okay.
So we wanted to sound the same as an original, but we had to make it affordable. So we changed the tube power supply to a non-tube power supply.
Fair enough.
That saved thousands of dollars in tubes and transformers.
Of course.
And it has no bearing on the sound. So the audio path doesn't pass through there. So we compared it, and it actually sounded quite spot on.
Quite spot on with the
old. I don't
want
to say identical because
again,
a lot of people won't have the chance to try it against an original, so they would have to take my word for it. And of course, but it sounded the same to me.
Yeah.
To me, it sounded the same. So
okay. So
no, it sounded. We couldn't tell it apart. And I wouldn't have launched it if we thought, okay, we cannot do this. So the thing with the Fairchild is it's not more complicated. Well, it's a complicated machine, but it's not so much more complicated than other tube machines or tube compressors. You know. It's just the amount of transformers and tubes and the huge faceplate and history and price that gives this impression of, oh, this is a very big deal.
The holy grail of compressors.
And it is, like anything you put past a Stam Child, in this case, your mix, it'll just gain this texture that is beautiful, and you recognize from these big studios and records. You know, it's truly a wonderful, amazing compressor. And it's a lot of time to make one, because we have to match every tube, and we have to match the resistors, because both channels have to be the same. And you know,
how much of a headache is that process? I mean,
well, it's pretty much, you take about 2 days to make one. So it's a lot of work, you know. But I'm sure people are going to be very happy with it, and we start sending it out now, and we're sending some to some people, big names out there that probably going to leave a review on it, that own the original, so
they can have a comparison with it.
Yeah. And we're at the end of the line with that, and we're also shipping the Poltec this month, which some people have been waiting for more than a year. And then the ADG's been shipping, the 1073Q has been shipping. We still have to clear a few hundred of them. And then the next thing for us is the SA4000, the Mark II, which we announced more than a year ago, I think. And it's quite challenging, because we cloned the DBX, the gold cans that are inside, that nobody's done before, and that is handmade, discreet, and we have a circuit to test each transistor, and it's very time consuming. So it's taken longer than we expected. That's another thing. So we had the suppliers, and then it comes to, okay, this is actually more difficult and slow to make than we would have thought.
And you always take, the time to actually.
We're not gonna, I tell my clients, I'd rather refund you and you be mad at me than sending you something rushed that I don't think is 100% like it should be.
Yeah, I mean,
we're not going to do that, and we still do everything handmade in Chile. You know, it's much more time-consuming than mass production.
You had some 500 series really cool mic preamps, but I haven't seen those on the website, and I'm a really big fan of those old Telefunken mic pre's. So, are we expecting to see some of those?
We have about 10 products 500 series.
Okay.
But we are holding off to announce them, because we have enough work as it is, and you know, it wouldn't make much sense right now.
That's great.
And also another thing is that our 500 series stuff uses a lot of MA consumption. So we are making a 500 lunchbox specifically designed to be able to
power
use
up those
these
units.
two things, yes, because they use 2, 3, 4 times more than other units.
Yeah.
And we need a very big transformer for that. And but yeah, the Telefunken V72, we actually made it 1 slot, and it's 3 transformers, 2 tubes, and a lot of stuff. And that was a challenge. Like playing Tetris. We managed to fix it all in 1 U, and that's enough to make a 3U version inside of there. So we are going to announce it probably later on this year. 500 series, a lot of stuff, a lot of cool stuff. And then into the next year, we have our own preamps and our own compressors and our own stuff that will eventually see the light of day. So we started this company cloning stuff. We learned everything we had to clone it. Then we mixed them to add 3 of them into 1 unit, which was the second step. So you still get the clone, but you get 3 in 1 or 4 in 1. And then the next step for us was, okay, we've learned from this. We know how this works. Can we make them, I'm not going to say better, different?
Yeah.
Can we add something to the table?
Yeah.
Can we add more coloration, more punch, more low end to these designs? And we can. But that's something we'll speak of probably next year if we see each other again.
super much looking forward to that. So, man, thank you so much for taking the time to travel all the way to Amsterdam to meet us all. I mean, I'm really happy to have this interview with you, because again, I've always been a big prayer for your own gear, because to be honest, it's extremely affordable and it sounds way better than what's out there for kind of the same price.
Appreciate it.
Of course, there's always been this big discussion about the waiting time, and everybody's even putting some really meaning words out there on the forum. So I thought, why not, just since Joshua is here in Europe, just to bring it on and have this nice civilized conversation. Hopefully people will appreciate your transparency and the time you took to go for it.
No, my pleasure. Thanks a lot for having me.
Thanks a lot. Thanks. Cheers.